This is the 2018 iPad, the 6th generation model, and it's a lot like the 2017 model, no surprise there, but there's two big changes here. First is the CPU. It moves up to the Apple A10 CPU, which is about 33% faster than the previous 2017 model. For those of you who play games and who want to use this, say, for something like Procreate, particularly with bigger canvases, that does make a difference. Also, it works with the Apple Pencil. This is just a slick wrap skin that I happen to have on this. This is an normal Apple Pencil here. So you don't have to go into the Pro models. That's kind of nice. I know a lot of people wanted something that they could sketch on with a really good pencil or drawing experience, but the Pros were just too expensive, and a lot of Windows convertible laptops with pens are expensive too. So now for $329 or $299 if you're a kid, or you can get any kind of educational discount, you can get into the drawing experience. The only drawback is the pencil is still $99. Educational discount on this one is $10, so it's $89. Now Logitech is going to have the crayon, they call it, which is a more kid-friendly form factor. It's a squat little pencil, and it's going to be $50, so that's nice. But that Logitech one doesn't support pressure sensitivity. So for those of you who are using it for art, that's probably not going to be an option. I'm also not sure if it's going to be widely available or if they're just going to sell that directly to schools. Anyway, we're going to look at it now.
Ever feel like you're maybe a step behind on some popular text? Like everyone else got the memo, the shortcut, and you're still kind of flipping through the manual?
Happens all the time.
Well, today we're sort of handing over that shortcut.
We are. We're doing a deep dive into a device lots of people know or know of, the Apple iPad, specifically the 2018 model. That's the 6th generation one.
Exactly. And we've got two main sources we're digging into. There's an Amazon product page for a refurbished one, which is interesting in itself.
Right.
And also a more general overview of the 2018 iPad's specs and features.
And the goal really is to pull out the must-know info, especially if you, the listener, are maybe considering picking one up now. You know, perhaps as a refurbished buy to save some cash.
Yeah, and speaking of refurbished, that Amazon listing, it shows different conditions, right? Like renewed, excellent, good, acceptable.
That's right, and the prices reflect that. Currently, looks like anywhere from, $98 down to maybe $79, give or take.
Which kind of tells you something. Even though it's, a few years old now, people still see it as a solid, reliable, and importantly, an affordable tablet option.
Definitely. So where should we start? Maybe the look and feel.
Good idea. How does it stack up physically?
Well, it's got that classic Apple aesthetic, doesn't it? You've got the 9.7-inch Retina display up front, housed in that familiar aluminum unibody.
Mm-hmm.
Weight-wise, the Wi-Fi model is about 469 grams, so not too heavy.
And the dimensions, you mentioned the screen size, but overall?
Yeah, it's about 240 millimeters tall, roughly 170 wide. And pretty thin at 7.5 millimeters.
So comfortable enough to hold for a while, like reading or watching something?
Exactly. It feels pretty balanced, designed for that kind of extended use. And colors, your standard Apple fare back then.
Yeah.
Silver, space gray, and gold.
Okay, so familiar look, solid Apple build. Let's talk about that screen you mentioned, the 9.7-inch Retina display. What are the key things to know there?
Well, the resolution is 2048 by 1536 pixels. That works out to 264 pixels per inch, or ppi.
Pretty sharp then.
Yeah, definitely sharp enough for clear text and images. And it has that 4.3 aspect ratio, which is, it's good for web browsing, reading books or documents. Fits a page nicely.
Okay, now I remember reading something specific about the construction of this particular display compared to, say, newer iPads or the Pro models. Something about lamination.
Ah, yes. Good point. This display is not laminated.
Meaning, what does that actually mean for someone using it?
So, think of it like this. On a laminated display, the glass surface is fused directly to the LCD panel underneath. There's basically no air gap.
Okay.
With this 2018 iPad, there's a small gap between the glass and the display panel itself.
And the effect of that gap does it make a big difference?
It can. The main things you might notice are, one, potentially more reflections, especially if you're using it in bright sunlight. And two, sometimes it can feel like what you're touching isn't quite as immediate, like the image is slightly recessed under the glass. It's maybe a subtle difference for some, but compared to a laminated screen, it can feel a bit less immersive, maybe? Got it. So visually, maybe not quite as premium feeling as some others. Let's switch gears to performance. What's under the hood?
It's powered by Apple's A10 Fusion chip. That's a 64-bit quad-core processor.
A10 Fusion. That sounds familiar. Wasn't that in iPhones around that time too?
Yeah, I believe so. And you know what? For everyday tasks, browsing the web, streaming video, using productivity apps like Pages or email, it actually still holds up surprisingly well.
Really? Even now?
Yeah, for that kind of typical use, it generally provides a pretty responsive experience. You're probably not going to feel major slowdowns just checking your mail or scrolling through websites.
What about multitasking? How much RAM does it have?
It comes with 2 GB of LPDDR4 RAM.
Okay, 2 GB. Is that enough to keep things smooth if you switch between a few apps?
For most users, yeah. It allows for, let's say, a reasonable amount of multitasking without everything grinding to a halt. Now, if you're trying to run really demanding apps or keep dozens of browser tabs open, you might hit limits compared to newer iPads with more RAM.
But for typical day-to-day stuff, 2 GB was, and often still is, workable.
Okay, so dependable for the basics. Now, one of the big selling points, even back in 2018, was Apple Pencil support, right?
Absolutely. That was a huge deal for this model, bringing pencil support down to the more affordable standard iPad line. It supports the first generation Apple Pencil.
And what does that unlock for users?
Well, it opens up a lot for note-taking, drawing, sketching, marking up PDFs. It just makes interacting with the screen for creative or precise tasks much, much better. Really valuable for students, artists, even professionals who need to annotate things.
But the pencil isn't included, is it? Need to buy that separately.
Correct. That's an additional cost to factor in if you want that stylus capability. Still uses the slightly awkward lightning port charging method for that first gen pencil too.
Ah, right. Good point. Okay, what about cameras and audio? Are they any good?
They're functional. You get an 8 megapixel camera on the back, the iSight camera, and a 1.2 megapixel FaceTime HD camera on the front.
1.2 megapixels on the front. That sounds pretty low by today's standards.
It is. Look, they're fine for video calls, scanning a document maybe, taking a quick photo if it's the only camera you have handy, but this is definitely not meant to be a primary photography device. The quality is just basic.
And sound. Does it have decent speakers?
It has stereo speakers. They produce okay audio for watching videos or listening casually, but you won't get the kind of depth or richness you find on, say, an iPad Pro or even newer standard iPods. They're adequate, let's say.
But it does have something many newer devices lack.
Yes, the headphone jack. It has a standard 3.5 millimeter headphone jack.
A definite plus for people still using wired headphones or earbuds. Okay, let's talk endurance. How's the battery life?
Apple's official claim was up to 10 hours of surfing the web on Wi-Fi, watching video, or listening to music.
And does it live up to that in reality, especially thinking about refurbished ones now?
Generally, yes. When it was new, it lived up to that for typical use. Obviously, battery life depends hugely on what you're doing. Gaming or high brightness will drain it faster. With refurbished units, battery health can be variable. That's something we see in the reviews.
Right, we'll get to those reviews. But baseline, it should offer decent daily longevity.
Correct. For a day of mixed use, it was designed to hold up pretty well.
Okay, now a really critical point for an older device, software. Where does the 2018 iPad stand with updates?
This is probably one of the most important things to understand if you're considering buying one now. It originally launched with iOS 11.3, and it received updates all the way up to iPadOS 17.
Okay, iPadOS 17 is fairly recent, so that's good, right?
It is good that it got that far. However, and this is the crucial bit, Apple has discontinued software updates for this model beyond iPadOS 17.
So iPadOS 17 is the end of the line. No iPadOS 18 or anything further.
Exactly. It won't get any new major OS versions, no new features that come with those, and significantly, no more dedicated security updates that are part of those bigger OS releases.
So the apps will still work, assuming they support iPadOS 17.
Yes, it will continue to function, and existing compatible apps will run.
But you're basically frozen in time, feature-wise, and to some extent, security-wise.
That's a good way to put it. You'll be missing out on ongoing improvements and the latest security patches integrated into newer OS versions. That's a major consideration for long-term use.
Definitely something to weigh up. Okay, let's pivot back to buying one today, specifically refurbished, like that Amazon listing. Tell us about the Amazon Renewed program. What does that actually mean?
So Amazon Renewed means the product, in this case the iPad, has been inspected, tested, and refurbished by qualified suppliers to be fully functional.
Okay.
They come with a minimum 90-day supplier-backed warranty, which offers some level of protection.
And packaging, accessories.
It might come in a generic box rather than the original Apple one. And the accessories included, like the charger and cable, will be compatible and fully functional. But they might not be original Apple ones. That's a common point in reviews, actually.
Right, the non-Apple charger thing. And you mentioned the conditions earlier. Excellent, good, acceptable. That relates to cosmetics.
Exactly. It's about the physical appearance. Excellent should have very minimal signs of wear, maybe none visible at arm's length. Good might have light scratches, and acceptable could have more noticeable scratches or dents, but should still work perfectly.
So let's get into what real buyers are saying. What's the feedback like on these renewed 2018 iPads from that Amazon page?
Well, as you might expect with refurbished tech, it's a mix. It really runs the gamut.
Okay, start with the positives. What are people happy about?
A lot of users report that the iPads function perfectly well. Someone specifically mentioned it runs iPadOS 17 smoothly, which confirms the software situation. Good quality is a common theme, especially the screens often being described as in perfect condition, which is great. People also find them easy to set up and use, typical Apple ease of use. And generally, they're seen as good value for the money paid.
That sounds pretty good, like a solid budget option if you get a good one.
Exactly. There's one review where someone bought one, loved it, then bought two more for their kids. They mentioned good battery life and that it came with the charger and base. Another said theirs was like new, no blemishes at all.
Nice. But there must be a but.
What are the common complaints or negative experiences?
Yes, definitely some recurring issues pop up. Battery life and charging performance are very mixed. Some say it's great, lasts ages, charges fast. Others report really short battery life, maybe just a few hours, and complain about slow charging.
That battery variability is classic refurbished territory.
It really is. Also, cosmetic condition gets mixed feedback. Some say perfect, others note scratches or even dents on the back casing, even if the screen is okay.
And the charger issue you mentioned. Yeah, quite a few reviews specifically call out that the included charger and cable aren't Apple originals. For some, that's just a minor note. For others, it's a bigger annoyance. Maybe they don't trust third-party chargers as much.
Any really concerning negative reviews?
There was one that stood out about a battery actually swelling up. That's obviously a safety concern. And that user also reported having a really difficult time with the return and refund process through the third-party seller on Amazon.
Oof. Yeah, that highlights the potential risk. A bad unit and bad customer service is a nightmare scenario.
Exactly. And another negative one just mentioned generally poor battery life, the iPad feeling laggy and having visible marks. So you really see the whole spectrum.
It sounds like checking the specific seller's reputation and return policy is crucial then.
Absolutely vital. And speaking of protection, Amazon often pushes those Azurian protection plans, right?
Yeah, you usually see options like a 2-year protection plan or maybe something called Complete Protect. What do those cover?
Typically, they cover things beyond the basic warranty, like accidental damage from drops or spills, and mechanical breakdowns after the initial warranty expires. They also often include tech support.
So, given the mixed bag of experiences with battery life and potential condition issues on these renewed iPads, would you say a protection plan is worth considering?
I think it could be a very sensible investment here. If you're worried about the battery degrading quickly or dropping it, that extra couple of years of coverage could offer significant peace of mind, especially given the relatively low purchase price.
Right. It might bridge the gap between the savings and the risk. So let's try and summarize the overall value here. Buying a refurbished 2018 iPad in, say, 2025, what's the bottom line?
The huge, undeniable draw is the price. It's an incredibly affordable way to get into the Apple ecosystem with a capable tablet, especially for budget-conscious buyers, maybe students, or just as a secondary device around the house.
Okay, so quick recap then. Pros.
Affordable price, definitely, particularly refurbished. Apple Pencil, first-gen support is a big one. The A10 Fusion chip still offers reliable performance for everyday tasks. You get that nice Retina display. And hey, the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack.
Can't forget the jack. And the cons, the things to really watch out for.
Number one is the limited software support stuck on iPadOS 17 forever. The non-laminated display might bother some people. The cameras are very basic, no smart connector for keyboards. And the base storage, often 32 GB on these models, can feel pretty cramped quite quickly.
Yeah, 32 GB fills up fast these days. Okay, so wrapping it all up, what's the main takeaway message for someone listening who's tempted by that low price?
I'd say the 2018 iPad, especially renewed, can still be a really compelling package. It balances features and affordability well, but you absolutely have to go in with your eyes open about its limitations.
Primarily the software updates stopping.
Primarily that, yes.
Right.
And also the potential variability in condition and battery health when buying renewed. You need to understand what you're getting or what you might get.
So it really boils down to matching the device to your needs, doesn't it? What are you actually going to do with it?
Exactly. Is it mostly for watching Netflix, browsing, maybe some light note-taking? It could be perfect. Are you planning complex creative work, Or do you absolutely need the latest features and security for peace of mind? Then maybe look elsewhere.
And really scrutinize that refurbished listing, the seller, the condition description, the return policy.
Yes. And seriously, consider if adding a protection plan makes sense for you, balancing the cost against the potential issues highlighted in those customer reviews.
That's really solid advice. Okay, leaves us with just one final thing, a thought to leave everyone with.
Go for it.
All right, so here it is. With software updates for this 2018 iPad officially done, what does long-term value truly mean for a tablet like this? How do you balance that immediate saving from buying refurbished against the fact that its software capabilities are now essentially frozen? Something for you to think about.